And also, Phil, did you ever get to chat with Neil Adams about the character of Green Lantern? And if you have, please share that with us.
Yes. Well, again, as a comic book fan, one time I got to see that Neil Adams was at a con, and I had to go. I was a huge fan of his Batman art. But I went up to him, Mr. Adams, I love your amazing work, but I'd also like to say thank you for creating a character who, decades later, became a job for me. Because Neil had co-created Jon Stewart.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
Yeah. And actually, 1 year here, I made sure to introduce Neil Adams to Kevin Conroy. Because to me, both of them make Batman as cool as he is in my heart.
Yes. Just a great, terrific. We've got the heart and soul of the League, the Martian Manhunter himself, and the sharp wit and unwavering will of Green Lantern. Let's hear it for Justice League legends, Carl Lumley and Phil LaMarr.
Are you not entertained?
Unless you want to ask me all the interesting questions, I don't think anybody wants to hear from me today. So,
We got comic book fans in here? Like me. So, us comic book fans, it is huge joy to be sitting next to somebody who's DC and Marvel.
well, both DC and Marvel, like a little Spider-Man action, though, right? I mean, Spider-Man 2. Yeah. We count this, right? We talked about that on Comic Book Central. Both of you gents, I've had the honor of having you both on Comic Book Central, so thank you so much for that. We're going to get into a bunch of things today. Before we get to Justice League, and we will get to Justice League, and I'm sure everybody's got their Justice League questions. Carl, I've got to ask you about bringing Isaiah Bradley to life. From Truth, Red, White, and Black, on the Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Captain America: Brave New World. Can you just, again, before we get into Justice League, I'm sorry, I've got to ask Carl about it. That such an amazing performance and such a powerful story too, coming from the pages of the graphic novel. So can you talk a little bit about how that role came into your life? And I'm going to have you gents go right into the mic just for the audio.
So I guess it came into my life the way they normally do for me. You go audition, or you put yourself on tape, or you make yourself available for the possibility. I did not know about Isaiah, so I read Truth. And after I read Truth, it's the unfortunate thing that happens. You don't care until you read something, and then it's all you can think about.
Right. That's a hard graphic novel to put down.
Yeah, and it was, what I loved about it was I thought that the fact that he had volunteered to go on a suicide mission for his country, and then was successful and accomplished the mission when Steve Rogers couldn't be there, and then came back and was accused of having stolen the uniform, and was in prison and then experimented on because they couldn't figure out why the serum hadn't killed him. So all of that could either be a tremendous set of grievances that someone would live with until it killed him, and then of course the serum is keeping him alive, so he'd have to live with it his entire life. Or it could be the obstacle that defines him because he survives. And so that was my choice, that it was the obstacle that not only in surviving did he save his own life, but he made a statement about the strength and the power and the necessity of spirit. Because no matter how strong he was made, he couldn't have overcome that without having a much stronger spirit. So his power is as much in what he contains and what he holds in as it is in his occasional temper tantrums, and his strength. He doesn't know how strong he is because so often he's in another state when he's called on to deal with it. So it was, I felt like it was an honor and an opportunity for me to honor people who do something that I couldn't do. I don't know that I would ever be able to volunteer to go into a service where the potential would be there to kill someone. It's not in my blood. But if it was, I would want to be like Isaiah. I would want to go all in for more than myself.
It's unreal. But the question I had here, you tapped into like all the words that you mentioned, this quiet strength, you mentioned sacrifice, the injustice of survival. When you finished filming, did you take anything away from, like, did part of Isaiah stay with you a little bit? And, what can we look forward to?
I think there's a part of Isaiah that I brought in.
Okay.
And I think his specific story, I took away essentially what I said, that there are people who are capable of doing amazing things. And I may not be one of those people, but I guess the joy of doing this work is I can play one.
Yeah.
You can play anything.
I
I'm sure they cast you because of your great talent. But I think there might have been some exec who decided, we got to cast this Tuskegee Captain America with the great actor who was the first black superhero on TV in Mantis.
Oh, God.
We got a chance to talk about that on Comic Book Central. You were one of my early guests, and we talked. We did a deep dive into Mantis, so that was if anybody wants to check that out, it's fantastic. But
you can't find Mantis in no comic books.
Can't find, but I think you can find it on Amazon. I think you can rent it, so I think you can download the episodes. So I'm pretty sure they're out there. So Phil, let's go back for both of you. But where did the interest in acting come in? For both of you, let's start there. Just what were you doing? Do you recall, like, the first things or some of your inspirations early on that made you go, oh, wait a minute, I can do this for a living? Wait a minute.
I was a lucky nerd.
Aren't we all?
In 8th grade, my school was doing a play of a book that I loved, The Phantom Toll Booth.
Oh, okay.
So I went into audition. It's like, oh, there's this great little character towards the end of the story. And then the guy cast me as one of the leads. So that got me into acting.
At 8?
Yeah, 8th grade.
Oh, 8th grade. I'm sorry. Okay. So what was it about it that appealed to you? Was it just that immediate sense of a reaction of, oh, he's doing something pretty cool? Like what fed
fictional
that?
world touch people.
Yeah.
That's what I love about it.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody can see him. He's got a Green Lantern ring on. Can you show that? This is like...
In brightest day.
We'll say for the whole thing, just to tease it for right now. We don't, just everybody hang on. We'll get there. It's so cool because I ran John Wesley Shipp's panel yesterday, and he had a flash ring on. So we love that you all are, because I know there was a period of time when, like, actors didn't embrace these kind of roles, and it was like, I'm going to be typecast into something forever. And it's like, now you guys are like repping the brand, and so we love that too. Do you recall?
Usually, whatever role you do, you don't just get out wearing your costume.
Do you have a full costume? That's a home thing, right? That's
it's a lot easier to wear a ring.
Yeah, we'll keep the ring here. We'll keep the costume. Do you recall your first paid gig? Like, what was your just getting in the business? What got the SAG card?
Well, weirdly, it was junior year of high school, because my mother's junior college friend got a job at NBC and became the highest ranked black woman in TV. And I guess my mom had dragged her to some of my plays. So she got me to audition for a cartoon, the Mr. T cartoon.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And that was my first acting gig. It got me in the union.
Did you know who Mr. T was when you were doing the cartoon?
Oh, yeah. Everybody knew who Mr. T was.
Yeah, okay.
I've seen a Rocky movie.
I don't know. I've
But
even
sadly-
interviewed actors on this
But
stage that said
sadly,
they grew
since
up without a television.
1983 to now, our time, I ain't never, ever met Mr. T. He didn't
Oh, not-
record with us in the cartoon.
Where?
Well, probably because it was one of the few cartoons back in the 80s to actually hire young people to play kids.
Right.
Most cartoons, that would have been middle-aged women.
Yeah, that's right.
Because typically in that era, you would all get together as like a radio play or something like, like the cast of Scooby-Doo and stuff like that. They would all get together. And so that was unusual for him to not be. So to this day, you still, wow.
Still going.
Okay, well, maybe the dream could come alive.
Hopefully I'll run into him at a con.
Yeah. Oh, well, you could. Carl, same question for you then. How do you recall when you first caught the acting bug, and what was maybe some of your first paid gigs? I know we're going back to the Mr. Time a little bit, but that's what I do.
So I don't know that I ever caught the acting bug. I think I was bitten and infected.
Thank God.
I started off as a journalist. I was assigned a freelance. I wrote for a freelance article for Downtown Minneapolis magazine, and they assigned me to do a story about a theater that had lost its cast to Los Angeles. And they were going to recast 5 people. So I got there early, and they handed me a card. I thought it was an audience card to rate the people, and it was actually an audition card. And I thought, well, this will be great. I'll write this story from the perspective of somebody who wants to be in this company. 5 people, and I think there was some, like, a couple hundred people were auditioning. And the audition was essentially improvisational, right on your feet. And so, because I was a writer, I had a facility with words. And I did not like being on a stage, but I liked stories. And I loved literature. I was a library nerd. And so I loved story. And so it was a way to kind of like be inside a story. And the audience didn't really matter as much to me as the people on stage. So we were playing, and there were people watching, but as long as they didn't come too close, I was fine. And then at the end of it, they said, so we would like you to join the company. I said, no, I'm a writer. I'm writing this story. I showed them, and they said, oh, okay, and they went away. And then they called back a couple days later, and they said, if you want to take a shot at it, we would like you to join it. You could do it for a show, and if you don't like it, then you wouldn't have to keep doing it. I did a show, and then I did a second show, and then I realized, no, I'm not actually an actor, and so I thought about quitting it.
Wow.
I actually had gotten...
We dodged a bullet there.
My old boss from Associated Press had moved to San Francisco, and about a month before I left Minneapolis, which is something I had always wanted to do, and moved to San Francisco. So when I got there, I was looking for a couch, and there was a performing arts column, and it said, 2 black actors needed for South African political plays. And I didn't know what that was, but it sounded interesting, and I knew a lot about South Africa, so I went to the library, my home away from home, and I got the play, read the play, and then went to this theater, which is in the basement of a church, to audition. And went down the stairs to the audition. There were 2 people there, the director, a man named Robert Woodruff, and this other actor. And I read with the other actor, and I ended up getting the role, and the other actor was a man named Danny Glover. And
Wow.
Danny and I did this play up and down the coast of California. This was in 77, 78. And then we ended up doing it in Los Angeles and got agents. And yeah, I don't know what happened with Danny, but no, Danny and I are still.
Listen, if you're going to
great
drop a
friends.
name in a story, man, that's a great name to drop.
Oh
That
my
is
God.
perfect. You said improv. I mean, do you remember like what scene you improv'd all those years ago? Like, do you remember what you did? Like, what you tapped into, or?
I remember a lot of it was political satire.
Okay.
So it
Wow.
was at the time it was just prior to the bicentennial.
Okay.
And so it was just a lot of scenarios around that. And in fact, the first show I did, it was called Who Will Buy the Bicentennial, which was a sort of a satirical look at this celebration of
Wow.
independence that had nuance and ambivalence inside it.
I
So
love that you
was-
remember that. Were you a Mad
Man.
Magazine fan
I mean,
at
Carl,
all?
Carl, that is such an incredible story. That's
Yeah,
like a journalist writing an article about the war, getting invited to join the Marines. That don't ever happen.
Were
It's
either,
true.
were either one of you comic book kids growing up? Like, did you gravitate? I mean, yeah, you said nerds.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
I got some comic books sold. I got some Mad magazines older than me.
wow. I mean, you still have long boxes and stuff? Like, you bag and board?
Oh yeah.
You bag? Okay. You got. What's the prize
Yeah,
of
my
your collection?
non-nerd kids are going, Dad, what's all this new? What's all this stuff?
Yeah. I mean, God forbid you got to take off. You got to grab a go bag. And what comic book are you grabbing? What's the prize of your collection there that you got to take with you no matter what? Do you have one?
Well, these days, when I'm going to a con, I go through my comics and try to find issues by the guests at the
Yeah.
con.
Okay.
Oh,
So you
yeah,
look
yeah.
ahead.
So I got
You do what we do.
Yeah,
Drag them with you, and then.
yeah, I got a stack of stuff like Chris Claremont and Howard Chaykin.
Oh man, you are one of us. One of
Kyle
us. One of
Baker.
us. Yeah.
Baker, yeah.
Did you read comics growing up at all?
No, I was not allowed to. My parents were immigrants to this country, and so I have 3 sisters. And my father and mother said it wasn't literature, and if they caught me with a comic book, which I was a real nerd. I didn't do that.
Okay.
The first comic book I
You
read
behaved.
was when Andrea said, "Do this character," and that the character had never been animated before, and she pointed me in the direction of.
That was your
Martian
introduction to
Manhunter.
comic
That was
books.
That was my introduction.
And then, like, did that little boy inside just like fall over the, oh, finally, I get my hands on these things? Or it's like, what are these things? What did you think when you read
I
your
was
first one?
just struck by the power of the image. I mean, I was attached to words and language, but I did not realize that language could be amplified in the way it could be by an image, or conversely, that the image could stand for language on its own without a caption.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very powerful. And I also will confess that when I got Martian Manhunter, doing
I don't know that I've ever heard that reaction. That was fantastic. I wasn't ready for that. That was pretty.
That was amazing.
That was pretty cool.
Well, I mean,
I get it.
I
But
guess Andrea, after working with Kevin Conroy, realized I can bring a great on-camera actor in to do this cartoon book. Because
Sorry, I just wasn't ready for that.
When you first came into a Justice League recording session, I was like, oh my God, I'm a huge fan of Buckaroo Banzai.
Oh man, which is really amazing to me, because when I walked into that session, because we did them all together, almost like you were doing a play and the cast was all there, and I just marveled. And
Wow.
what I felt was that being my first time, it was kind of like an academy. It was sort of like being allowed to play on the varsity as a freshman.
Wow.
And so I just learned. I just absorbed and learned and came to really respect what it took to create a character and only have your voice to work with. That's.
But you performed the character so amazingly well that they eventually put the character on camera in the DC universe on Supergirl.
Yep.
They brought the Martian Manhunter.
Yeah. And then the joy of joys, I got to play my own character's father. On Supergirl.
I want to ask you about that. We've got a microphone over here, by the way. I'm guessing there's some audience questions. Do you guys have questions? If you can line up right over here, just head on over. I can riff for a little bit while you guys are getting lined
How
up.
rare do you get to play the father
Of your
you once
character,
played?
right?
Right.
Yeah,
And
only
then-
in these like multiverse things now we're doing. So
And then additionally, Phil came and played my son
yes,
in one of those final episodes of Supergirl. So it just brought a lot together
Yes.
for me.
Yes.
While we're,
Carl's amazing talent actually got me to be on camera in DC.
While we're getting the lineup here, I got to ask you, gents, do you recall and if you don't, that's okay, but do you recall the first line you recorded as your Justice League characters? Do you recall the first line that you did? Or do you recall that first day going in? I mean, you referred to it a little bit, but going back again through the mists of time. Or just what were your first impressions when you walked in? Because like you said, you were recording it like, a radio play.
Together,
Yeah.
I just remember being incredibly nervous, and I don't get.
You were nervous.
I was really, really nervous.
Why?
And I don't get nervous in front of a camera. By that time, I'd done enough stage. I didn't get nervous, but there are no. You can't play any tricks. You can't do anything cute with your face or open an eye. None of that makes any difference. The character has to live simply inside the voice and inside the story of the character. And because his story, for me, was an immigrant story, I felt like that was what I had to attach to. And so it made me nervous because I felt it was important. I wanted to contribute. I didn't want to let Andrea down, the director who had brought me in to work with this amazing group of artists. So I was nervous. That lasted probably 2 or 3 recording sessions.
Wow.
And then
I can't believe you're nervous in anything. I get the newness of it or something like that, but still, just anyway, I guess it's all perspective because you guys are probably going.
Did it eventually become less nervous? Well, also, I mean, when you're performing on a microphone, playing your character or doing whatever the scene, you can't turn your head.
Right.
Or the engineer goes,
Right.
No, you're off mic.
Yeah, exactly.
But did it get more recognized or more easier by the time, later we got to work together again on Static Shock,
Oh yes.
where you got to play, where they brought Carl in to play Anansi, the Africa superhero.
That's right. It did get easier, and a lot of it was because I listened so much to these great voice people I was working with, and because we did it for a number of years, it grew on me, and I learned how to bring truth to my voice in that way.
Yeah.
So
That's.
And now I just love it.
I'm guessing you were taking from them and they were taking from you. The symbiotic relationship at that point. So that's just fantastic.
I was taking a tremendous amount from them. I might have had a few scraps they could find, but I was
very
taking
humble.
as much as I could.
I think we love the fact that you and your fellow actors just put so much into this because it would be very easy to just go in and record your lines and give me a line read, what do you need, and move on. But the fact that you dig deep into the lore and you go through these things and you feel the weight of the characters, it's just, we appreciate that.
I would say part of that is, for me, it's the fact that audience is not in the room with you, but audience is what you're reaching for.
Yeah.
It would be great to be able to bring it up and just have it to play and bounce around with us, but the fact it has to transmit. And the audience has created a standard. And so you're trying to meet that standard.
Yeah.
And you only find out about it, I have learned subsequently, by coming to events like
That's
this.
you led me right into it because you don't have the audience there, but you have the audience right here. You're at your table, you have the audience right there. Now you can see it from that perspective. What does that mean to you both now that you're you're still doing voice acting, but it's like removed from that Justice League and you're seeing Static and all the other characters. But when you're seeing fans come up to you and tell you what that meant to them, or maybe it got them through a tough time, we've heard that in all these panels that are going on. What does that do for you now in that perspective of not just being behind the mic?
Makes me feel lucky. Well, getting to work with great storytellers and, get into these universes and have them successfully get out to other people. Yeah. That feels good luck.
Yeah. And now you're getting that love coming. What is it?
It's humbling because you don't realize how people receive what you're doing, and the things that people have had to say about what's touched them, where we showed up in their development as they went along. It's gratifying. I feel, yes, lucky, but quite humbled.
Well, we're fortunate that you did it. Let's go to the audience questions. Let's go first. Your name and where you're from?
Wally from New York.
Hey, sorry,
Yes,
sorry
you are.
on the audio.
Hello.
on the mic.
That mic definitely works.
Okay, we're good.
Very well.
Okay, I was gonna let's see what I think. I was gonna first ask for Phil, what is like the most powerful Static Shock episode in terms of emotion, tackling hard issues and stuff? Your 3 episodes.
There's so many great episodes. I mean, it was basically like, wow, this is what it would be like if I got superpowers in high school. But I mean, the best ones were either the episode where Static's father took him and his sister to Africa, or the one where he got to travel back in time
Flashback. That's the one.
and got to see his mother who died.
I'm not crying. Someone brought a bowl of onions with them. The other, I guess you've done, because you've done a lot. You're Sarah of live action stuff. Spider-Man 2 and guest appearances in Castle, Cold Case, even Grey's Anatomy as well. What other live action stuff would you want to do?
Other live action things
Live
you want
action?
to do? Yeah. What would you like to do?
Well, I don't know. I hope Quentin does a TV show sometime.
Well,
I would definitely say yes to that
point.
audition.
Fair point.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. All right, next question.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
Thank you both, Carl. Rich Davis, Velvet Joker, Nerd Culture News and Entertainment. Thank you both for your beautiful performances in Justice League that helped form not my childhood, but my 20s. First for Carl, Mr. Lumley, first of all, you were supposed to be here in 2020, so we're thankful that you were able to return and make this happen because it is no longer COVID. Yay.
Yes.
And number 2, Carl, I want to thank you for a particular episode that you did as Martian Manhunter, which was a Christmas episode where Superman brought you home to the Kent family farm.
Yes.
Talk to me about that episode, please.
That was a tremendous amount of joy, and yes, it was the season, but it felt joyful to me. I thought the writers, as they always did, these stories were so good, and before I got into it, I thought that they were silly stories for kids, but there was enough to appeal because of the imagination, but the stories themselves were rooted in all of the same things we all go through, just connection and misunderstanding and ego, and all of these wonderful human characters had this stuff going on. So in that particular episode, Jean, Christmas, yeah, fine. I think he liked peppermint. That was good, but it didn't really mean anything. But the gesture was one he couldn't turn down, and so he goes and he's on this farm, and Clark's family—they're very, very nice people, but you can't help but feeling out of it. You can't help but feeling this is not my thing. But as it went along and he began to see these examples of this spirit of joy and what Christmas meant to that family, he was able to relate it to certain kinds of celebrations in Mars. So by the end of that, he actually sang a Christmas carol in his own mind, a song of celebration, celebrating life, that we used to sing in Mars all the time. The feature of that was that when we went in that day to do the show, Andrea Romano, the director, pulled me aside before we went in and said, when we finish up, I have just something I want you to do. Think of it as Martian Christmas Carol, but let's not talk about it now. Let's do that. So we did the read, and all I could think about was Martian Christmas Carol. So after everyone left, she asked me to improvise a Martian Christmas Carol, and that's the song. That,
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Those improv skills coming back.
And I'm telling you, and I think I owe a debt to the editors, especially the sound editors on that, because they were able to edit together something that had coherence and seemed to be intentional.
My favorite part of that answer is when you said, "Well, we used to sing on Mars all the like." You took the character. I'm like, man, he inhabits the character. Like, it's just second nature to you right now. That's the best part of that. Thanks for the question.
Yep. And for Phil, real quick. Phil, first of all, for those who don't know, Phil is super accessible and awesome online. If he likes what you do, he will like it, he'll heart it, he'll share it. So thank you for that, Phil. And also, Phil, did you ever get to chat with Neil Adams about the character of Green Lantern? And if you have, please share that with us.
Yes. Well, again, as a comic book fan, one time I got to see that Neil Adams was at a con, and I had to go I was a huge fan of his Batman art. But I went up to him, Mr. Adams, I love your amazing work, but I'd also like to say thank you for creating a character who, decades later, became a job for me. Because Neil had co-created Jon Stewart.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And actually, 1 year here, I made sure to introduce Neil Adams to Kevin Conroy. Because to me, both of them make Batman as cool as he is in my heart.
Yes. It's the great Terrificon, making dreams come true all the time for everybody. It's cool that you get to fanboy out about people too. I mean, we see from the other perspective. So thanks.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. You guys are awesome.
Thanks.
The next question, please. You can just pull that mic down just a tad. There you go. Yep, thanks.
Hi there, Marty from outside Minneapolis.
Hey.
Didn't know the connection before. So it's been said that every actor needs to play Hamlet at some point, but I think the same is really true anymore for Sherlock Holmes. And Phil, you've played Sherlock in the Moriarty audio plays. So how does it feel to have joined that community of actors? And given how many times that role has been portrayed, what did you do to put your own stamp on it?
Yeah, there's this Audible series called Moriarty. And I got to play Sherlock Holmes next to a couple of Lord of the Rings guys. Although it was interesting, well, one, to play a character who I had all the books of. But also it was like, uh-oh, is this going to be tough since I'm the only non-British person? No, I'll just make sure I listen to their accents.
That's cool.
And then, actually, later on, they brought in Helen Mirren. Yeah. So it was a pleasure.
Awesome, thank you.
Do you find it difficult or easy to mimic other accents and things like that? When you have to do something, have you found
because I understood the character.
Yeah.
And they said, no, we'll make sure we give him, a sort of high-level British accent to make sure he doesn't sound, whorish.
Yeah. Nailed it, thanks. Next question.
Hi, I'm Ian, and I'm from Munson. What do you identify the most with your characters?
What do you, for the Justice League or any of the characters?
For the Justice League.
For your Justice, how do you identify, what's the closest you identify with for your characters? What traits? Improv, we know that. We got that one.
I would say...
or immigration.
Yes. I'd say listening and holding space for compassion. I have, especially when I was growing up, there was the 50s in this country were not particularly easy for people who looked like me, skin color like me. Definitely not easy for immigrants, people from another place. I remember when I was young telling someone that our family was Jamaican, and they said, "Oh, Jamaica, what part of Africa is that?" So I think I learned two things. One, if someone expressed hatred for me, it didn't do me any good to hate them back, because I didn't want that as part of my being. But it still meant I had to find a way to carry it and store it so that it was not in my way. I think that that particular trait is something that I found very important in John Jones. Someone who had his planet blown up and then came to some place where he was the only green individual. No one else could read minds, no one else could discorporate, no one else could shapeshift. He was on his own. And what the universe had done to his planet, he could have been vengeful. He had a lot of grievances that if he wanted to, he could have decimated Earth. But instead, he found in Earthlings something similar to what he knew on Mars, and could connect to that. So that's the piece in me that I felt was in him.
Wow.
Well,
Phil?
I felt related to Jon Stewart, primarily because when I went in there to audition, Bruce Timm told us, well, Jon Stewart is the Green Lantern. I'm like, wait, not a backup Green Lantern like he is in the comics? Cool. But, he's also, I remember it's like, oh, well, he's from Detroit. And my daddy was from Detroit. So I was thinking, okay, he shouldn't just sound like a hero. He should sound like a soldier, a Marine. Although it was interesting because when I went into audition right after Dennis Haysbert.
Oh, God. Oh, man.
Who I was like, oh, thank God he didn't wear green. Because they would have just started running cameras on this guy. Because he looked like the character.
Yeah. And the voice and everything.
Yeah,
too.
he's got that same.
Oh yeah.
So-
Did you go in repping the brand? Did you go in
Well,
green?
I figured I got to sound as big as Dennis.
That's good. You can flip.
But I'm going to make sure he sounds like somebody from Michigan.
Wow. Perfect. Thanks for
Thank
the
you.
question.
Green Lantern's light.
Beware my power.
Can you move that mic down a little bit? There you go.
If
You
only
got
I
it.
were taller. Hi, my name is Sylvia. I'm from Jersey City.
Hey.
Quick question. Well, I have two. But for you, Carl, did the South African play that you were in, did it impact your role in The Color of Friendship? I love that movie. I love that movie. Damn.
Yes, it did. Because I think that character that I played in Color of Friendship, Ron Dellums, led the charge in this country for identifying what was going on in South Africa and directing America to change its sort of palsy relationship with that regime. That play, because it was only two people, it was called Sizwe Banzi is Dead. And I played a photographer who was responsible for helping new black people in Johannesburg take the pictures that would go into the pass book that would track their coming and going.
Wow.
So he was functioning in a way that made him aware of what people were getting into. They were coming to Johannesburg because they couldn't get work any other place, but the only way they could live in Johannesburg at that time was by having a pass book that tracked their coming and going and made sure that they weren't in places they weren't supposed to be in their own country. So that seemed so incredibly wrong, and I think that cemented for me the desire to address it. And anytime I had a chance, I did a few more South African plays after that. But then when Color of Friendship came up, and I realized this was about the next generation, and these two girls made a connection independent of anything political. They were just two young girls who started writing letters to one another, connected in that way. And my character then could learn from his daughter and be inspired to do more because of her courage and bravery and decency. So yeah, it definitely affected it.
Thank you. That was amazing. For Phil, in regards to Justice League Infinity, did you get a chance to read it, and what was your take on the evolution of the characters? Because when Justice League Unlimited ended, we didn't really get a full linchpin in Shayera and John, and I felt like the Justice League Infinity really kind of cemented what really happens after the fact. What was your feelings towards that, if you got a chance to read it at all?
Well, I get to read everything, but I was just curious why we were shifting from a 7-person league to a mini-person league. But the fact that they were then bringing in so many heroes into the league, it made sense to me. Yeah, okay. Now we got a Supergirl. It was a joy.
Thank you for your questions. Yep. Next one.
Hi again. I'm Melody. I'm from down the road. So I live in Connecticut. My question is for Phil. Phil, was there a story arc that you guys thought about doing, either during Justice League or Justice League Unlimited, that you didn't get to do for John Stewart that you had hoped they would do?
You mean like a storyline from the comics that they didn't put into?
Was there one that
No.
you were hoping to? No?
No, I knew they weren't taking everything directly from the comic. I mean, you ain't gonna read no comic book with Jon Stewart and Hawkgirl having a winged baby.
No, not the wing baby.
No, they just took the best parts of the characters, the best parts of the stories from the comics into it, but then they put in all of these other, I mean, that romance between Hawkgirl and Green Lantern, I remember thinking, wow, this don't feel like a comic book. This feels like an hour drama. You know, two heroes fell in love.
Next level animation there. Yeah. Thank you for the question.
But then he had to break up with her when her people invaded our planet.
Oh, those Thank you.
Move that mic up a little bit. There, yeah.
Good?
Thank you. Yep, that's good.
Hi, I'm Jaden. I'm from Hartford, Connecticut. Hey. I guess my question had to do with the late, great Dwayne McDuffie. Obviously, Phil played one of his, if not his biggest character in Static, and obviously he did several Justice League Unlimited and the Justice Lords story, and obviously Ben 10. Did you guys have any personal experience meeting Dwayne? Did you get a chance to meet Dwayne McDuffie? And has he left any impact on you guys?
I remember meeting him because I loved the stories so much. The scripts that they turned in were so beautiful. And I remember meeting him particularly on one episode that he had written. And it was the first time I met him, and I was struck by how humble he was, how complimentary he was, but how he just didn't want that put on him. He just enjoyed doing the work, really loved actors. And sometimes, you know, it sounds strange, but in Hollywood, that's not always the case. Actors are sort of a necessary evil, and sometimes you're treated like the necessary idiot. But he was just a wonderful human being, and meeting him, you could understand why he wrote the kinds of stories he did, because he had such a vast well of humanity inside which he lived.
Yeah. No, I definitely met and spent time with Dwayne. Well, whenever there was anything in an episode that was a reference to something specific from a comic, I would go talk to Dwayne. Hey, Dwayne, is this from that episode, that issue? But we became connected, and sadly, we lost him. But thankfully, I get to continue Dwayne's legacy, because I've been hosting the awards that are created and named after Dwayne. It's the Dwayne McDuffie Award for Diversity in Comics. That's now in 10 years.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for the question.
Hi, I'm Josh from Rhode Island. My first question goes to Mr. LaMarr. So this is a very out of left field question. What were your thoughts when you found out your character Marvin in Pulp Fiction would be shot in the face by John Travolta?
Well, no, I knew he got shot in the face because it was a story about two hitmen. And, well, I mean, before auditioning, I got to read the script.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it wasn't a problem. Although it was interesting, after doing, before the shoot, Quentin Tarantino had us rehearse for the movie shoot. So, in rehearsal with John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson, I remember John, when I walked in, he's like, oh. John Travolta goes, oh, this is the guy I'm going to kill? The audience is going to hate me. But he then, because originally my character Marvin was supposed to get shot twice. Once in the throat, and then while he's sitting there bleeding, Vince is supposed to shoot him in the head to, let me get you out of your misery.
Oh, man.
And John made a suggestion to Quentin Tarantino. It's like, no, the gun should just go off accidentally just once. I shouldn't kill him on purpose. So he changed it.
Wow.
That's kind of sweet.
Another improv. As sweet as that could be. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's like,
in that world.
Oh, wow. That's how you become that world famous, by understanding how people are going to feel about your character.
Now we can look at that scene in a whole new way.
My second question goes to Mr. Lumley. So set photos were released from Brave New World of what seems to be a stunt double of you in a uniform, meaning you were going to be part of the Red Hulk fight. I could be completely wrong on this, but I know it underwent heavy reshoots. What were your thoughts about being cut from the final fight, if you were?
I had no thoughts.
You had no thoughts?
Nice.
And my last question goes to both of you. If the late Kevin Conroy and the late Dwayne McDuffie were here now, would you two be willing to do a sequel to Justice League Unlimited?
Does the sun rise in the east?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Hi, my name's Brian from Stratford, Connecticut. I have a couple questions. So first, Phil, how did you get picked for that scene in Pulp Fiction?
What's that?
How did Tarantino pick you? How did you end up in that movie?
Oh, how did you end up in Pulp Fiction?
Weirdly, because of improv.
Okay. It all comes back to improv.
Yeah, I've probably told this story before, but I was in a group called the Groundlings, which was a improv and sketch comedy theater in LA. And one of our great alums, Julia Sweeney, was on Saturday Night Live. And when Harvey Keitel hosted Saturday Night Live, she got to meet Quentin Tarantino, and they became friends. And then later, when she moved back to LA, she asked her friend Quentin to come do an improv show with us. So I got to watch the creator of Reservoir Dogs be funny on stage. Like, wow, I thought he would punch people. No.
A couple more questions. How did you end up meeting? Did you ever meet Kojima when you did Metal Gear Solid 2 and 4?
Meet who?
Kojima. How'd you meet Kojima? Metal Gear Solid 2, Vampire?
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Gear Solid 2. I'm trying to remember if he actually came from Japan. I think he might have just been on virtual. Because, video games you don't necessarily record together. But I loved Metal Gear 1 so much that I begged the casting director, who also cast cartoons, it's like, wait, you're doing casting for a Metal Gear game? Could I come in for something for that? I begged for an audition.
Thank you for the question. Appreciate
last
it.
one's a general question for both of you. I know
We're gonna have to speed. I'm
this
looking at the time. We're gonna have to speed it up a little bit. So if we could. Yep. I'm gonna have to go speed round here pretty soon. Thanks, guys. We appreciate it.
Scott from Stratford. For Carl, what was it like, one of my favorite, I guess, television series, the Chicago 8?
Ooh.
Working with Bobby Seale, how did he feel about your performance? And then did Yahima reach out to you for any tips or advice when he played it in the remake for Sorkin?
To answer the second question first, no one reached out. I think they had seen the HBO show of it. This was the Chicago 8 conspiracy trial. I played Bobby Seale,
Powerful
and
performance.
It was an amazing group of actors brought together to kind of reenact this moment in history when these 8 people were trying to protest what was going on in the country, and they were rounded up and sort of put together. And this horrible trial judge wanted to make an example of them. And so at one point in the proceedings, Bobby Seale, who had been roped into the trial and was not shy about expressing his outrage, was literally removed from the courtroom and bound and gagged and returned to the courtroom. And that moment is still, I think about it now, it's one of the most horrible, helpless moments I ever experienced. I don't remember ever feeling as an actor as personally assaulted as I did when I did that particular moment. And people were really, really wonderful about it because it's kind of awful to see bound and tied to the chair.
You were amazing.
Thank you for the question. Wow. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Chicago 8.
Oh,
Do that. There you should. Yeah.
And then I think they redid it again.
Got it.
Oh, hey.
Hi, my name is Randy, and I'm from Rhode Island. My question is, how do you get such strong emotions across as a voice actor without having the physical part of acting available to you?
Very good question.
Nice.
What I do is first you have all sorts of things in your life that you can relate it to, things that are similar, and you sort of have those on demand. When you're an actor, you probably pay more attention to those kinds of things and go back in your history and think about what is this like? Something that happened to me. And then you fill yourself with it. You're not telling anyone else, you're kind of telling yourself. And as you tell yourself, whatever the text is, it comes out in those words. That's the best I could do to express it. If I was a refrigerator, I would be raiding myself to do those roles. I would be looking and seeing what is in here that's like what I have to do, and then I would take that and eat it.
And Phil?
Nice.
And Phil?
Well, the best thing to do about your acting on camera or on face acting or voice acting is to have the amazing level of intelligence like Carl Lumley. Because you'll have such great understanding of characters, of stories, of universes, and that's why you could have the range of characters that Carl can play. He can play so many different kinds of characters in so many different worlds and be amazing in all of them.
Well, I thank you, and well, okay, you're right. No, but the thing is, what that comes from is listening. In my view, it comes from listening and paying attention. So often, I think you're given the opportunity to observe other people and see what they go through. And sometimes those examples, things they say, the way they feel, I've trained myself to retain those things. You see a woman who is in an airport who looks distraught because her 5-year-old ran around the corner and she doesn't know where he is. I'm not a mother, but I have a son. I can relate to the idea of missing a loved one. I was a son. I used to run away from my parents on occasion and then suddenly realize I'm all alone. So I know what those things are like. And I think as you go through life, you can collect as many of those as possible. And in my case, the nerdier you are, the more stuff you can collect.
Thank you for the question, too.
There you go.
Probably have to go a little bit of speed round here. We're running out of time, so we want to make sure we get all 3 of these in. So if we can go like the Flash, what we get?
I'll try.
I know. Put the
Actually,
pressure
that's John Wesley's ship.
I know, that was the panel yesterday,
Anyway, my name is also John, from Connecticut. Real quick before I ask my question, I was at a convention a couple like 10 years ago. I met George Newbern. And if I ever had the opportunity to tell this story to both of you, it's real quick. I was cosplaying as Martian Manhunter.
Oh, wow.
And he called me Green Lantern. So next time y'all ever tell him that, it's an embarrassing story. Anyway, we've seen Martian Manhunter in both Supergirl and in the DC EU or whatever it's called, and I think isn't there going to be a live action Jon Stewart at some point? I think there's. I'm not sure.
Live action.
Isn't there?
Talking about it.
Yeah. My question then.
Although it was interesting in the new Superman movie, they had Nathan Fillion
playing Guy Gardner. Yes. The voice of Hal Jordan.
Even though he had played a
Hal Jordan
on the Justice League cartoon.
Yeah. So my question then is for the both of you: if you could pick one actor. Whether they're still alive or dead, any era, to play your characters in live action, who would they be?
Well, I picked Dennis Haysbert.
Solid choice.
Well, I had the pleasure of seeing it. David Harewood.
There you go.
And I just loved what he did.
There you go.
And it was great then coming in and playing his father.
There you go.
Because I could be really proud of him.
And if we're being honest,
we have to move on. I know we're out of time. We're totally out of time. We're going to get 2 quick questions here, real quick. We're going to go speed round.
Hi, I'm Wake from Stratford, Connecticut. I have something to say to Phil and Carl. Please, Mr. LaMarr and Mr. Lumbly, are you sad that Kevin Kari, the voice of Batman, passed away?
Yes. Did you? Is the question? Were we sad that Kevin Conroy passed away?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
he was
sir.
missed. And this was, I think, was this his last? It might have been his last convention here too. Terrific. Maybe one other. So.
Wow.
Yeah. So we had the honor. We're going to grab a real quick question at the back here. Thank you for your question, and we'll close it out here.
It's sad to lose Kevin Conroy,
Yeah.
even if you've only just taken in his work.
Yeah.
But
if you work with him.
But you
Rest in peace,
when you
Kevin.
spend time with somebody that nice.
Rest in peace, Kevin. You
loss.
will be missed.
He is.
Amen.
Thank you very much. And last question, real quick.
Hey, Green Lantern, praying for you. Remember me? Remember me from with the Justice League? Okay, I can see you. What are your thoughts if? Let's put this.
That's okay.
Hang on one second. What are your thoughts? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, embarrassed in front of all you guys.
That's okay. You're doing all right. You're doing all right.
You're off mic.
It's all right. You're good.
You're doing all right.
Okay. Thank you, fans. Thank you. Okay. Okay, I can do this. What do you think? I'm sorry. I can't even speak that well.
Take your time.
Okay.
It's all right.
Okay. It's okay.
It's the Justice League, not the Question League.
Uh-oh.
Oh my Greenland, that was funny. So, I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts on the haters hating your Green Lantern movie?
Oh, the animated Green Lantern?
No, the one for 2011. You know, the live action one.
Oh, okay. The live. Okay.
Oh,
Ryan
well,
Reynolds.
What are your thoughts on the haters hating you like
I
that?
think it was a generational issue because back when we were doing the Justice League cartoon, a lot of young people watching that cartoon were not the same people. Well, actually, they weren't reading comics. So when, he came out with a Green Lantern movie for a generation of people, it's like, that didn't look like Green Lantern. Who the hell is that? Now, for the comic book readers in their 60s, oh yeah, he looks like Hal Jordan. But that wasn't enough.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Carl Lumley and Phil LaMarr. Justice League.
Thank you, League!